The glass of crimson wine burst over my pale top as my sibling's hand struck my cheek. The noise of the blow reverberated across the eating area, followed by a hush so total I could detect the overhead light pendants chiming softly. Rebecca's tone sliced through the calm like a knife. "Leave my residence, Valerie." Immediately. For 3 unending moments, everybody stayed still. Utensils hung suspended. My mum's grip stiffened on her drinking tumbler. My dad's mouth clenched barely noticeably. The smug grin on my brother-in-law David's visage broadened sufficiently to reveal his flawless dental work. My identity is Valerie. I'm 35 and a monetary tactician. This is the tale of how I recovered not merely a building, but my whole position within my kin. The warmth from Rebecca's palm mark throbbed over my face as I balanced myself using the table. I had anticipated her response, simply not so openly, not with a dozen relatives observing as if they were spectators at a play rather than a weekend meal. When Rebecca messaged me the summons 7 days prior, I understood the moment was ultimately correct for what I had schemed for ages. My sibling Kyle grumbled. Classic Valerie theatrics. Just audible enough for all to catch, while Aunt Penny exhaled with flair and grabbed for additional wine. I might have departed. That is what I had done for ages. Tolerated their ridicule, their rejections, their incessant recollections that I was the household letdown, the blame bearer, the underachiever who could not compete with Rebecca's flawless existence in her extensive countryside, dwelling merely 30 minutes from my city centre flat. Pathetic Valerie, they would murmur when I exited spaces, still striving while her elder sister possesses everything. I aligned my posture and grasped for my serviette, patting the wine blotch extending over my front like a wound. My speech came out firmer than I anticipated. Amusing. You mentioned that, Rebecca, since technically I do not believe you can eject me from my own asset. The space atmosphere appeared to plunge 10 degrees. Rebecca's impeccably sculpted features stiffened. Her look wavering between bewilderment and fury. "What are you implying?" She pushed out a chuckle, gaze shifting to David, who abruptly grew very occupied with fixing his timepiece. "Everybody realises you scarcely manage your flat. 4 weeks ago, you were requesting Mother for food funds." My mum tensed, her stare fixed on her dish. That falsehood had spread among the household for months. A misconstrued discussion distorted by Rebecca into one more shortcoming to append to my record. "That is not the situation," I stated softly, "but I am not astonished you would present it like that." My dad inclined closer, annoyance wrinkling his brow. "Valerie, if you are only present to create trouble, I am here because Rebecca asked me farther." She desired the complete clan to view her fresh eating room furniture. I indicated the shining rosewood table. "Brought in from Italy, correct, Rebecca? Probably set you back, how much? 20 grand? Rebecca's jaw raised. Certain individuals have laboured sufficiently to purchase luxury items. The offhand brutality in her voice, so recognisable it possessed its own feel, ignited something within me. For 36 months, I had awaited the perfect instant. This evening, with her hand impression still smarting on my face, that instant had ultimately come. I grasped for my purse dangling on the seat back, the hide smooth under my fingertips. You understand what I have constantly found intriguing. I maintained my speech casual as I opened the side compartment. How individuals can exist inside an entire delusion, provided nobody confronts them. David cleared his throat. "Rebecca, perhaps we ought to provide the sweet course." "Not presently," she retorted, gaze fixed on my palms as I extracted a tan folder. The heft of it seemed gratifying within my grasp. "Denser than the sheets inside ought to have been." But then, reality possesses its own weight. What is that intended to be? Rebecca's voice had forfeited part of its sharpness, doubt seeping in at the edges. Possession documents, I stated plainly, for this residence. My dad's utensil clanked upon his plate. What are you suggesting, Valerie? I glided the sheet from the container with purposeful sluggishness, placing it smooth on the surface between my wine glass and partially consumed fish. 36 months ago, when Rebecca and David were attempting to purchase this spot, they encountered an issue with funding. David's visage had turned the shade of raw paste, perspiration formed along his forehead, despite the powerful cooling system. That is old news, he uttered. Tone set loftier than normal. We resolved everything. You did? I agreed with my assistants. Rebecca's chuckle was fragile. That is absurd. You were hardly covering your lease back then. That is what I desired you to assume. The phrases felt like exhaling a lungful I had been retaining for years. The reality is, I had already vended my initial venture formula by that point for 7 digits. I simply did not announce it because each instance I accomplished anything, this household discovered a method to belittle it. I tapped the sheet. When David phoned me alarmed because your credit collapsed, I intervened. I supplied the initial instalment. I underwrote the home loan. My name is on the title as principal holder. The quiet in the space was total. Then, Rebecca dove over the table for the page, almost toppling the decorative arrangement. Her eyes raced over the sentences desperately, digits shaking. This is fabricated. You falsified this, but her voice lacked belief. My mum grasped for the sheet. Allow me to examine that. While she read, her eyes expanded. Valerie's name is recorded as proprietor. Rebecca, is this accurate? Rebecca spun toward David, her tone a sharp whisper. You informed me my mum and dad assisted with the deposit. David slackened his neckline, gaze shifting between his spouse and me. We required the funds rapidly, and Valerie proposed. You proceeded covertly to my younger sister. Rebecca's tone escalated sharply. The younger sister, I have been informing everybody, is an absolute washout. My sibling Kyle leaned forward. Wait, so Valerie possesses this spot? The home you have been flaunting to her for 36 months? I shook my skull. Co-possesses. Or, minimally, I did until 4 weeks ago. David's head jerked upward. What does that imply? It signifies, I stated cautiously, that when you contacted me again 42 days prior, frantic for currency because of your betting obligations, I consented to assist under one stipulation. Rebecca spun toward David. What betting obligations? The disguises were dropping swiftly now, too swiftly for anybody to uphold the careful falsehood this household had built. My dad's face had aged 10 years within minutes. My aunt remained motionless, wine glass midway to her mouth. David has been obtaining from illicit lenders to pay for his card game deficits, I clarified. When they commenced menacing him, he begged me for assistance. Again, I discovered the specifics when his debt collector genuinely phoned my workplace, thinking I was already engaged in his fiscal matters. You are fabricating, Rebecca murmured, but there was no certainty in it. Fundamentally, she had sensed something was amiss. She simply had not wished to perceive it. I reached into my purse again and took out a subsequent folder. This is the revised title conveyance he endorsed 4 weeks ago. He was so frantic for the cash he did not peruse the tiny print. David hid his face in his palms. What did you perform? Rebecca's tone was hardly hearable. He relinquished his share of possession to me, I stated, rendering me exclusive holder of this home. I had not anticipated the liberation that would surge through me once the phrases ultimately departed my lips. 36 months of performing the failure, of bearing their taunts, of waiting. The entire time I constructed my firm, earned my millions, and waited patiently. That is not feasible, my dad stated. Rebecca would have needed to endorse too. In fact, no. I tapped the initial title. The manner we arranged it initially, each holder could convey their portion absent the other's approval. David demanded that condition. I suppose because he intended to ultimately remove me. Poetry was a lovely thing occasionally. Rebecca stood so abruptly, her seat fell backward onto the Italian stone flooring. This is my home. Actually, I amended gently, it is mine and has been, partly or entirely, since the day you relocated in. The family scene before me was nearly artistic. Astonishment, incredulity, and the gradual emerging terror of realization, showing on every countenance. Kyle's constant smug smile had disappeared. My mum's meticulously upheld poise was fracturing. My dad seemed like he had aged 10 years within moments. This entire period, Rebecca whispered, while you permitted us to think you were having difficulties, you were what? Affluent, executing some twisted scheme? No scheme, I stated. I was constructing a monetary technology enterprise that is now worth $68 million. I simply ceased disclosing my achievements with individuals who derived enjoyment from my setbacks. My dad's voice cut through, command incapable of concealing his amazement. Why would you not inform us, Valerie? Your own kin? The inquiry lingered in the atmosphere so genuine it nearly made me chuckle. When I achieved Dean's roster in university, Rebecca told everybody I was duplicating on tests. When I received my first advancement, Mother questioned if my supervisor was attracted to me. When I purchased my initial vehicle, Father, you inquired if my new beau had funded it. I glanced around the surface. You were not intrigued by my accomplishments. You were committed to my downfall. David stood suddenly. This alters nothing. We reside here. You cannot simply... I can, I interjected serenely. And unlike you, I genuinely examine agreements before endorsing them. The conveyance grants me the authority to end your tenancy with 30 days notification. Rebecca's impeccable cosmetics could not conceal the astonishment withdrawing the hue from her face. You would not. 3 hours earlier, I would not have. I conceded, touching my cheek where her slap still ached. But then you attacked me before our entire household and instructed me to depart from your residence. I collected the sheets, sliding them cautiously back into my purse. The burden of 24 gazes tracked each motion. For the initial instance in my grown-up existence, nobody in my household was ignoring me or beyond me. They were perceiving me. I will have my lawyer dispatch the official notification tomorrow. I stated, standing from the surface. You possess 30 days to locate a new spot. Rebecca's poise broke entirely. You cannot do this. Where are we expected to relocate? That is not my issue, I answered, mirroring the precise phrases she had stated to me years prior when my flat inundated, and I had requested to reside with her for a weekend. Perhaps attempt one of those economical flats you're constantly advising I should accept. I stepped to the exit, my heels tapping upon the stone floors Rebecca had boasted about placing. At the eating room doorway, I halted and glanced back. For whatever it matters, I never intended to remove you. I was preparing to propose to trade you the home under market price once my enterprise launched publicly next month. I believed it might be a new beginning for us. I touched my cheek again, but certain matters cannot be repaired with cash or additional opportunities. The quiet that accompanied me to the main entrance felt distinct from all the hushes that had preceded in this household. It was not the quiet of individuals anticipating me to exit, so they could discuss me. It was the quiet of individuals comprehending they had never genuinely understood me whatsoever. While I shut the door behind me, the evening breeze seemed purer than it had in ages. The burden of being the household frustration had risen, substituted by something that felt questionably like liberty. 36 months of endurance, 36 months of scheming, 36 months of allowing them to trust precisely what they wished to assume about me. Occasionally, retribution does not require to be noisy or theatrical. Occasionally, it is as straightforward as ultimately presenting your genuine self to individuals who never attempted to see. 8 weeks later, following my enterprise triumphantly launched publicly, I completed the transaction of the home to a venture collective. Rebecca and David had already relocated by that point, individually. I learned via my mum, who contacts me each week now, that they submitted for separation after Rebecca found still more betting obligations he had concealed. Kyle contacted me to express regret, and we have shared coffee on 2 occasions, a hesitant mending I never predicted. Regarding my parents, we are making minor strides toward a connection founded on who I genuinely am, not who they presumed I was. The household interactions have irrevocably altered, recalibrating around the truth instead of convenient fabrications. Before you depart, here is a fast reward for remaining. If you adore discovering and developing like you must attempt audiobooks. I possess a special arrangement with Audible. Your initial month is totally complimentary. That is entry to above 500,000 works. 0 expense to you. All the information awaiting in the description. Do not skip this one.